Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Why Financial Education Matters. We're just going to wait for a little for everyone to come in the room, and then we'll start with interpretation. ASL interpretation is available today. You should be able to see it on your screen. And we also will have language interpretation available. We'll go over those steps shortly. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. Right. For today, we have closed captioning. To start using closed captioning, make sure you click on the CC or closed caption button on your Zoom panel. If not, you should also be able to see it now because it's on for all attending panelists. And for language interpretation, you won't see it now, but it'll start soon. Please click on the interpretation icon. So para uso de la interpretación de idiomas, hagan clic en el icono de interpretación. And once you click on the interpretation, select Spanish, selecciona Español. And after clicking Spanish, click mute original audio, so you won't hear both English and Spanish at the same time. So después de seleccionar español, hagan clic mute original audio para no escuchar los dos idiomas al mismo tiempo. And to use ASL, again, you should see it on your screen. Dina, who is interpreting for today, is already spotlighted, so you should be set to go. And I'll be starting interpretation now for Spanish users. Okay, next slide. All right, so I'll pass this over to our presenters for today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm Karen Hassett. I am a white woman with brown hair. I'm wearing a purple sweater. I have brown eyes and brown glasses. And today we are going to focus on financial education. And you're going to see on this slide in the top left-hand corner is a picture of a woman with her guide dog. And she, if you're from Philadelphia, tapping Mac or otherwise using the ATM. If you go over on the top slide is a person using their computer to do some online banking, and below that is an individual writing out a check. Going over to the next group of images, there is an individual very happy showing her paycheck in front of her, a sign for her employer. And then below that is actually a classroom with individuals learning financial education. And finally, the last picture on the right-hand corner is an individual with their wallet performing some sort of transaction. So before we get started on financial education, I would like to tell you a little bit about Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation. So Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation is a statewide organization. However, we are based in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. We help people with disabilities and older adults acquire assistive technology so they can lead independent and satisfying lives. Most of our employees and our board of directors are either individuals with disabilities or have family members with disabilities. We are what is called, you're going to see on that, on this slide, there's a little image of, in the letter CDFI, we are what is called a community development financial institution. We provide loans to individuals for assistive technologies. We are also part of Pennsylvania's alternative financing program, and that was made possible by the Federal Assistive Technology Act. We are one of 3 programs in Pennsylvania, which include Tech Owl and Disability Rights Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation, or PATF. We help Pennsylvanians of all ages and income levels, disabilities, health conditions, communities, and cultural backgrounds. Our programs and services focus on 3 primary goals: to provide information and help with assistive technology, loans for assistive technology, and financial education, just like what we're doing right now. So I'm talking a lot about assistive technology. What exactly is it? Well, assistive technology is any device that helps an individual live with a disability, do the things that they want to do. And on this slide, you see images of, in the bottom left-hand corner, there is a woman who is wearing a hearing aid. The picture next to her, the photo next to her, is an individual taking delivery of their adapted vehicle. I imagine they're shaking the hands of the person who sold that, who sold that to them. The next photo is a wheelchair user speaking into their smartphone. They have on earbuds and they're listening to a game that's playing on their smartphone. The last photo on the bottom is an image of an individual who is also a wheelchair user, and he is driving an accessible vehicle that has hand controls. I have 2 pictures on top. The top right-hand picture is the photo of someone looking at their smartwatch. And the final photo is someone using a desktop reader scanner. And those are just a few examples of assistive technology. There are many more. And what PATF does is we offer 2 loan programs for assistive devices. The first one is our mini loan program. That's for borrowing amounts from $100 to $7,000. There are no fees and it's 0% interest. The maximum repayment term on that loan is 48 months, so 4 years. Our other loan program, is a low interest loan program. That's for amounts $7,001 and above, and it will go up to $60,000 or $35,000 if we have to guarantee the loan. The interest rate is fixed. That means it will stay the same for the life of the loan at 3.75%. And again, there are no fees. These loans the term of these loans are typically based on the useful life of the assistive device. And I'm going to give you our contact information at the end of this presentation, and please feel free to reach out to us if you should have any questions. And I can't see the chat right now, but I know I have someone who will be putting in a link to our website as well. I want to give you an example of one of our mini loans. This is John, who has cerebral palsy, and he's a wheelchair user. He contacted us to request a loan to purchase a smart speaker with a display and a smart thermostat. He wanted these devices so that he could basically control the temperature of his house by using his voice. He also wanted to use that smart speaker to listen to audiobooks and the news. A PATF mini loan covered the cost of not only the smart home devices, but also the installation and training expenses. And you can see the total cost for that was $530. Again, no interest, no fees. It was a 20-month repayment term. And yes, it is John. John is paying $26.50 a month for the independence to control the temperature of his home, as well as listen to the news and audiobooks. So let's talk about financial education. Why does financial education matter to PATF? One of the things is mainstream financial education materials, and there are a lot of them. Just don't include information that's critically important to the disability community. So on this slide, you're going to see an image of an instructor with our pencil, with the guides that I'm going to talk about in the next few slides, giving instruction to high school students. So one of the things, as a disability organization, PATF created this curriculum that incorporates all the elements of financial topics, as well as essential topics for individuals with disabilities. Our goal here is to help people make informed decisions about managing their finances and also get control of their financial future. And I'm going to talk to you a lot more about the topics that we cover, but I just want to give you the reason why, why it matters to us. And just in general, why do financial education? Why do we teach financial education? And again, it's so that every individual has some level of financial well-being. It's to provide an opportunity for all people, including individuals with disabilities and older adults, to be able to make informed financial choices, to have access to mainstream financial products, and to take control of their financial journey and be empowered to advocate for themselves when it comes to their financial well-being. There are a broad range of topics, which I'm going to cover in a minute. And, we really just want to have individuals be forward-looking when they consider their financial journey. It's really important to us. It's not about what you did yesterday, what decisions you made yesterday. It's not about looking back. It's about what you can do going forward. And here are some of the topics that we include in our financial publications. These are just a starting point as well. And as I said, our goal is to provide knowledge and the skills to take charge of your financial life. And you can see on this slide, there's an individual with a calculator looking at a statement. And I would assume they're trying to balance their checkbook. So one of the things, a topic that we talk about, probably the very first thing we talk about is budgeting, but we like to call it money mapping, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Also, we include things that are important to individuals with disabilities, understanding asset limitations, how to save safely and not have your benefits jeopardized, banking, how to pick a bank or a credit union, how to build credit, what if you want to be in a home of your own? How can you do that? Employment supports. We also talk about adult decision-making. And then at the very end, we have a transition age checklist. These are our two publications. One is called, you'll see the green one is our Sense and Sensibility, A Guide to Money Management. And the yellow one is our Educator's Companion Manual. Our Sense and Sensibility, that green one, is in its 7th edition, and our Educator Companion Manual, was just updated in fall of 2022. And again, there's a link on the slide that will take you right to there. You can download these. You can request a print copy as well. The green guide, the Sense and Sensibility, A Guide to Money Management, is also available in Spanish. And online, it is PDF and it's 508 compliant. And let's get into the first one, which is our Sense and Sensibility Guide to Money Management. In this guide, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek into the inside of this guide. As I said, it's available in print and accessible PDF. It is also available in Spanish. Currently, our Spanish version is based on the 6th edition of our Sense and Sensibility Guide. However, we are going to be updating our sensibility guide with an additional chapter, which I will tell you about in a minute. And when we do that, we will also make it available in Spanish. One of the things we really think is important is it contains vocabulary and a glossary. This is so people can learn the language of the finance world, those key definitions, those key words that will help you sort of pull back the curtain of what's going on in the world of finance. Also, it's great to learn things, but it's even better to practice them. And we have plenty of worksheets and activities in this guide for that, to practice what you learn. That way it gets reinforced, what's being taught gets reinforced, and it supports positive money habits and behaviors. And I'm going to show you what I mean by some of those. This is our chapter on money mapping. Again, we don't like to say the word budget, even though you might see that in the title. Get ready to budget. Budget always has such a negative connotation, like we're depriving ourselves of something. But this chapter, money mapping, there's a background information all about why it's important, what it can do for you, how it can empower you to take charge of your financial journey. And that's why we call it money mapping, because it is a journey. And you'll see on that page there's a compass, that with north, south, east, and west. And the reason why we do that in this money mapping chapter is because we like to align it to a map. You're mapping your financial future. And the beauty of doing that is, even if you take a side trip, go off the road a little bit, go, try something different, a map will get you back on to your journey, to your destination. And our destination is financial wellness. And that is really the beauty of money mapping. And you can see there's all sorts of tips and definitions and activities on this page. Also, one of the things that we include in our savings chapter is a comparison of Pennsylvania Able versus special needs trusts. And we're going to put that, a link to that in chat. And also, when you get this PowerPoint, you'll also be able to click on those bottom two things, that bottom two bullets, which is the National Able Resource Center, and then another site that's actually pretty new, Able Today, it's called. And and this is, again, it's going to give you the uses. It's going to compare how you open up a special needs trust versus an ABLE account. What are the costs? What are the limitations? And what are some of the qualified uses for each of these vehicles? And our last chapter in that Sense and Sensibility guide is the sort of kickoff to independence. It's our transition ready chapter. What it will do, it's going to put together all 9 chapters and then a transition age checklist that's going to help learners organize their finances and identify the steps they need to take to achieve financial independence. And you can see the list on this slide. Some of them include investigating supplemental security income. Have you registered to vote? And if you're a male, selective service. Have you obtained your necessary ID cards? And have you established a relationship with a bank or credit union? Are some of the some of the things on that list. And the image on that page is just a screenshot of the very first page of that chapter, and you can see, and it has like a checklist where you can actually go through and check off each individual item that you need to do as you transition into, I guess, would it be adulthood. And then finally, we are adding a brand new chapter to Sensibility, our money management guide. And it's going to be a chapter on investing. Everybody wants to know how to invest, or which we are not going to tell you, but we are going to give you the information on investment vehicles. For example, we're going to talk about stocks. What are they? We're going to talk about bonds. What are they? Mutual funds. We're going to talk about risk. Are you a risk taker, or do you like to play it safe? And in addition, we're also going to include a section on PA-able and its investment vehicles, because with PA-able, you can actually have a checking account, but you also have an option to put your money in 6 different investment accounts. And we thought that this was really important to help, in plain language, explain what this is all about. Then so our first publication was our Sense and Sensibility, a money management guide. We then created an educator guide that is geared towards anyone who's going to teach financial education. It can be a regular regular ed teacher, a special ed teacher, or it might be somebody else who has taken up the charge to teach financial education. You can supplement what you already use. You can use this exclusively. There are, it includes educational standards. It includes essential questions, supplemental activities, and again, those all important key terms, as well as background information for the educator so that they are prepared to answer any questions that might come up, and then some teaching strategies. Also is a classroom ready slide presentation, and then a whole section, a whole chapter on additional resources. And I'm going to show you what those are. I'm going to give you a sneak peek in a second. It is available in and it's an accessible PDF. You can download it from our website. You can request a print copy. It is not yet available in Spanish, though. So let's take a peek inside this Educator Manual. And I hope that you can see that. This is, again, in the second edition, we added a peer teacher who provides tips and suggestions and an alternate perspective to students, and by sharing their own personal stories. The point here, or what we were thinking here, is that we were, if there was an educator who actually was a student with a disability who already completed the program, this would also prompt them to make sure that they share their personal stories, their firsthand knowledge. Because we do, through storytelling, it really does make it real for the learner. It helps the learner put themselves in that role or in that situation. And then here's another example, another screenshot of the Educator Manual in our borrowing chapter, or it's all about credit. And again, you can see it contains background information. There are teacher tips on the sidebars, strategies, discussion questions. And for example, one of our discussion questions, and I would love it if you could put in chat an answer to this question. And Tracy, if we want to stop, because I think we're actually doing pretty good with time, we might, maybe we can read a few of the answers. But one of the discussion questions, because again, we learn better when we create our own learning. And one of the questions is, how does credit allow you to purchase things you need and want? But here's what I would like you to answer in the chat. And what are some of the potential pitfalls of credit? A lot of people are afraid of credit, and as a result, when they need credit, it's really difficult for them to go into the credit world. So it's really important to understand credit and understand how you can use it to your benefit. But one of the parts of that is understanding what are some of the pitfalls. So please feel free to put in chat what you think some of the potential pitfalls are of credit. And we're also going to do something in a little bit another activity where I'm going to ask you to share in chat. And I will keep moving, and if Tracy, or if you want to interrupt me, please feel free if there's some answers coming into the chat. Again, what are some of the pitfalls of credit? So Chapter 9 in our Educator Manual is all about adult decision making, and it includes what is called a PACED, PACED decision making chart. And that's the image that you see on the slide, is a screenshot of that page with the chart. And I'm going to explain what that is in a minute. It also includes information on supported decision-making, guardianship, substitute decision-making, power of attorney, and legal ramifications as well. That PACE chart that you see on our slide, it's a grid, and what it is, basically you compare options based on what's important to you. So first of all,
Karen,
yes.
it's Lauren. We are getting some responses to
great.
your
Okay.
question in the chat.
Perfect.
One says overspending. You can spend more money than you actually have and go into debt, paying interest, temptation to overspend, unclear terms of APR interest, knowing I have a bill every month, not being able to pay your balance off in full, which accrues interest. Credit could affect money management and impact clients' occupations, ADLs, and that's it for now.
Oh, that all really great comments. You could do a workshop on credit with all of those comments. And you know, one of the things, and this is sort of a little segue into credit, having debt can impact your future, your financial future, because it's really hard to make decisions when you always have to pay yesterday's spending. It's hard to plan for the future. So those are fabulous. Thank you. Keep them coming, because you, by posting in chat, you're also helping other people who may not have thought of something that or have thought of. So thank you. So this decision-making model is for any decision. And if you have a decision to make and you are struggling, this is a great way to put it down on paper and get a visual, or at least start, I want to say forcing, but encouraging yourself to think about what are your options and what are your priorities. So PACE. The P in PACE is define the problem. So what is it that you're trying to figure out? Then you want to list alternatives. That's the A. And that alternatives would be those things that would be on the top. And I'm going to give you an example in a minute of what this would look like. Then you want to select your criteria. What is important to you? So C is that criteria. And it may be criterion and pluralized, but again, what are your priorities? And I'll give you an example. Let's say you're thinking that you want to move out or buy a home. You might put in that section, that what is important to you is where it is, location, cost, parking. Is there available parking? Does it have a yard? Is it one story? Is it accessible? So those might be some of the priorities that are important to you. Then you want to evaluate all the alternatives based on those things that are important to you. And finally, you want to make a decision. And I'm going to show you, not in the next slide, but the next couple slides, I'll show you one that was actually filled out, and it may make things a little bit clearer. But I like to use that just in my regular everyday life. This is just a screenshot. You can see the image on the slide of our slide deck of each of our 9 we have 10 chapters, but not chapters 1 through 9 all have complete slide decks that are associated with them. So these are classroom ready. You can use them. And when I say classroom, I'm not even thinking traditional classroom. It could be virtual like this. It could be in your home. It's really, it just makes things easier. It also helps spur discussion. And I'll show you how we do that in a minute. And here's that example of using a decision-making chart to make, to compare the cost of, or really to compare where you want to buy a pair of jeans. So on this slide, you see there is a table. And the table says if this is a comparison shopping for a pair of jeans. Now, we know our alternatives are we can go to the mall and buy them at the Gap. That's at that top line. Or we could do some discount shopping at Marshall's. We might do some internet shopping, or we could buy them at a thrift store. Now, what's important to us is the price, the location of where we're going to buy these jeans, the hours of the store, are there any extra costs, and anything else that we haven't considered but could be important. And if you look at this, and I'm just going to give you an example. For example, at the Gap, those jeans are $50, but it's far away. It is convenient. The extra cost might include $10 for paratransit. The other is it's fun. It's a fun outing versus, let's say, the thrift store, which is the last column. Our jeans are $10. It's very close, but it closes at 4:30, so it's not convenient out, open wise. There aren't any extra costs. And here's the problem: they don't have my size. So on this table, this chart, you see there is one column that's the discount store, and it's highlighted in yellow. That is the decision. That is the option that this individual decided on. And you can see they are not the cheapest by far, because internet, you can buy them for $30, but there's a cost for shipping, can't try them on. And the thrift store, they're $10, but they don't have this person's size. Marshall's, they're a little more expensive, but they're close, they're convenient, and there's no other extra cost, and there's no other extra considerations. So you can see how right off the top, you might think, oh, that thrift store is the way to go, but it really isn't for this individual. And that's how a decision-making chart can work. It just really lays things out and helps you think through all your options. This is an activity. This is an example of a supplemental activity in our Educator Manual. Now, I did show you that the chart the slide before, that chart is not in the Educator Manual. It is in our Sense and Sensibility guide, but the Educator Manual provides instruction on how to walk through that and how to introduce that activity. This is a supplemental activity. It's comparing credit card options. A really good thing to do when you are thinking about a credit card. It's also really good, and we have one of these charts in our Sense and Sensibility book for comparing banks and credit unions. But you can see in this chart, you have 3 options. You can add more if you'd like. So those would be your credit card companies: Discover, Cap One, American Express. The left-hand column, the very first column, are your card features. Like, what is the annual percentage rate? Is there a grace period for purchase? What are the fees? Is there an annual fee? Is there a late payment fee? Is there a missed payment fee? Are there rewards offered? Again, those might not be important to you, but if they were, you would pick a card. You may pick a card that has a reward. So these are all activities that you can do and adapt however works for the learner that you are working with. And I talked about we need to get the conversation started. Money is really hard to talk about, and no one's really comfortable at all, especially when if it's a parent-child. even, two partners, very difficult conversation. So we want to get people talking. We want to have learners create their own learning. And that just means, that's sort of that light bulb moment that goes off when you realize you've connected the words to what makes sense to you. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to do a little activity. And these are actually sample slides from our educator guide. So this is probably the foundational concept in financial education. To do anything, to get any kind of control of your finances, we need to understand the difference between needs and wants. Sounds really simple, doesn't it? But when you think about it, and I know I struggle with this, sometimes things that you think are a need might not be, or maybe they were a need a while ago, but they're not a need now, because needs and wants can change over time. So what is a need? It's something that you have to survive. It's like a place to live, enough food to eat. Another way of defining a need are things that you must have to live in safety and with dignity. There we go. What is a want? Well, a want is simply something that you would like, but you don't need to have to survive. You don't need it right away. And another way of defining a want is things that you would like. And a good rule of thumb is if you can live without it for 6 months, chances are it's a want and not a need. Think of needs as more essential and more immediate. So here's the activity. In the next 4 slides, I'm going to show you some items, and I would like you to think about whether they are a need or a want and why. And I'm going to ask you to post in chat whether you think it's a need or a want. And if you are really good at typing, or if you can put it in there, also tell me why you think it is. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go through all 4 first, and then we'll go back and we'll talk about whether they are needs or wants. So here's the first picture. It's the picture of a video game controller. Is this a need or a want? And would you put your answer in chat? You can just put N for need, W for want, but do you think this is a need or a want? Now give it a second. And you can tell me if you need me to stop or slow down, but I'll move on to the next image. This is a picture of a 2-wheel bicycle. Is this bicycle a need or a want? And again, just post that in chat for me. Okay, next slide. This is a picture of a voice activated.
Karen,
yes.
People are still posting.
So okay, so that's
a few more
good.
seconds.
Then I will take a drink of water. Oh gosh, we have a very active chat. I just looked over and saw the number. Thank you.
Okay, I
All
think
right.
you can go ahead.
Right. And you just keep posting. So this is a picture of a voice activated speaker, an Alexa or a Google Home. Is this a need or a want? And I have one last picture. Okay, this is an image of a smartphone. Is this a need or a want? And again, post that need or want, and I'm going to go all the way back to the video game controller. And I don't know, do we want to, okay, when we're ready, if you want to just get, I don't know if this is going to be Tracy, if you want to get on, just tell me what some of the responses are. for a video game controller? And I know this has always been the one that video games with our kids.
There are a lot of responses. So some of them for video games.
Okay,
It's a want because it's entertainment.
okay,
A want, you don't need this to survive. A
Okay.
want, you don't need video games to survive.
anybody say it's a need?
It could be a need. Yeah, there are a couple that are related to need.
Okay. And one of the things I want to take this minute to point out, there is no right or wrong answer here. It is wants and needs are really personal, as money is. Money is personal and based on your personal experiences. What somebody else is doing may not be right or a priority for your family. So when we're just trying to get thinking about these things, trying to reframe them and look at them in a different way. It definitely could be a want. In the case of my kids, and if I were any good at video games, it would be a want. However, it could be a need because it could provide an outlet for individuals with disabilities to de-stress, to work toward a specific goal, to get a sense of accomplishment, and maybe even prove their self-esteem. Video games, they are all over the place in the educational system, really can help children with learning disabilities by creating interactive environments, realistic environments, and of course, they capture everybody's attention because that's what they do. They're engaging and we enjoy doing them and we do learn through them. So it can be, and it can just be, it just depends on what's, your personal situation. Thanks, Tracy. What about a bike? A two-wheel bike, want or need?
Here we have a mix.
Okay.
So need and want might be needed for transportation.
Mhm.
Depending on disability, it might be a need. So we have a mixed response here.
Okay. And and two, this is where I point out that, for example, when I was in high school, I had a job, but no car. So the only way I could get to that job was my bike. So for me, at that point in time, it's a need. Now, at the stage of the life that I'm in, it really is only a want. I don't need a bike. In fact, I have like 5 of them in my garage that I'd like to get rid of. But this is when I point out needs and wants change over time. So when I was younger, I needed that bike, but as I aged, I don't need it. And that's one of the things when we're talking about our finances, we build these habits. So one of the reasons why we do financial education is to illuminate those habits and be mindful what we're doing, because the beauty of habits and the not so good thing about habits is we don't think about them. And as a result, we don't have to think about them when we do them. So we just do them. And a lot of the workshops I have done, when people actually look at what they spend, they are a little appalled at how much they're spending at Dunkin' Donuts or Wawa or wherever it is. But again, it's, this to me is a really good example of, yes, it could be a want, it could be a need, but also our wants and needs do change. Okay, and then I think you're probably getting the picture. This is a voice activated speaker. Is this a want or a need? And
so this, again, all of these can be considered a need or want.
Right.
There were some references to this being required for communication. This could be recreational,
Mhm.
but for someone who is deaf or hard of hearing, this might be a need.
Mhm.
So again, Karen, I think you proved your point
Yep.
that depending on the situation, any of these could be a need or a want.
Right. So, and that would be the same thing with that smartphone as well. But again, it's just giving you an opportunity to think about these things. And so we've talked about our print publications, Sense and Sensibility, and then the Educator Companion Manual. We also have an online presence, and that's called studymoney.us, and we can put that in the chat. And what that does, it takes all the chapters from our Sense and Sensibility book, and it's all online. It's easy to use, it's interactive, it's accessible. It also contains learner and instructor resources. And I'm just going to show, you can see on this slide is the screenshot of our homepage, very colorful, very easy to navigate, very easy, to read. And here are some of the features. As I said, there's a resource section. It includes statewide resources, local resources. It also includes financial education resources, and they're all hot links. So you just hit them and you go to that resource. And again, we review these things. That's the beauty of the online, is that we can keep this pretty up to date. The activities, I'm going to show you a few of those in a minute. They're interactive. You can download them. The worksheets, they're fillable online, or if you download them as a PDF, they're also fillable on on your computer, and you can save them. And there's also the all-important glossary and key terms as well. And the image here is just also an image of one of our activities. And that you can't see it there, but those lines would actually be fillable. And they're grayed out if you've ever seen fillable forms. And there's also a little reminder at the bottom of those activities, just to remember that you have to remember a good rule about money. And I'm sorry, I'm looking over there. It's like when you spend more than you on your wants, you don't always have enough money to cover your needs. And that would be that need and wants chart. And I'm just going to keep moving. This is an example of our savings and benefits pages. It's updated to reflect information as it changes. So it's talking about how you can save without jeopardizing benefits. And it's giving you current asset limits or income limits. And this is the activity. And again, all of these, if you can see, that would be all of the, and I'm going to excuse the side of my head, but all of these activities are fillable. Going to the shore, baseball game. These are ways of setting savings goals. That adult decision-making I talked to you about, this is an overview of some of the background information about adult decision making, and some of the ways that the different types of decision making. And then this page is information about the legalities of, or legal information about decision making. And then this is an example. This is a screenshot of our end of chapter review. So again, this would all be, and excuse the side of my face, this is, you would answer these questions. I want to improve my savings habits, and you would just check off. I strongly agree, neither disagree, strongly disagree, don't know. And you would, once you complete those end of chapter quizzes, you do get a badge. And again, my apologies. you're going to see these really nice icons and colorful badges. Once you complete all the units, you actually will get a certificate of completion. And then finally, I think storytelling it makes things very real and memorable. And this is a quote from an individual who benefited from our financial education. And I believe it's Alicia. And Alicia went through our financial education program. And for the first time, she had money left over at the end of the month in her budget. Again, when we're talking about this financial education, the goal is just to be mindful of what we're doing with our money. There is no judgment because we all do things differently. Your money is personal. But what a nice feeling that she had when she could actually see that she had money left over from her, just from her money map or her budgeting. And what she could do with that money is she could make a goal. And that page that I showed you before, maybe she has a savings goal. Maybe she wants to take a trip. That extra money could go right into there. And that's kind of a reward for doing that sort of thing. The last thing I want to talk about is, so we have our two publications, and I should have probably put this in here. We are also working on a parent guide, how to talk to your children, how to introduce financial education concepts to your children. And that'll be out probably this summer. So we have the two guides, plus we have our online website, and we also do webinars just like this. And these are called our Money Talk series. They're on our website. You can access them. It's at patf.us/moneytalks. And they, in these webinars have covered everything from voting to tax preparation, to credit, to decision making. We did one on student loans. We did one on ABLE, and the videos are there as well as transcripts. And in some cases, there may even be a Spanish language interpretation video as well. So at this point, I think I've done pretty well with time. This is how you get in touch with us. And please, any questions, we are here to answer them. And you can email us at our initial patf@patf.us. And I do want to point out that it's a .us, it's not a .com or .org. So it's a little more unusual. And of course, our website, which I believe is in the chat, www.patf.us. Our phone number is 484-674-0506. And as I said, we are located in King of Prussia. However, we are statewide. And then follow us on social media, where we have some really great money tips, some great webinars, some great education, just some great information on all things assistive technology. So I want to thank you for spending your time with me. I hope you found this helpful. And if you have any questions, I think now we can open up the mic and I can stop sharing if that works.
We do have one question from Nicole. It says, do you have any resources or job opportunities for COTA? I'm not familiar with that acronym. I am an occupational therapy assistant student in Massachusetts.
Well, Tracy, you might be able to answer this. I don't, and we're in Pennsylvania, so I don't know. And Nicole, you're certainly welcome to unmute yourself if you would like.
Nicole, I can send you the information for Easter Seals in Massachusetts. They are our sister program. They run an alternative financing program for assistive technology. And if you would like to put your email in the chat or in the question section, I can get you that contact information.
Thank you, Tracy. I knew you would know the answer. And I
We
do-
also, Karen, had other people asking where to find like the financing programs and the I'm sorry, the assistive technology programs in other states. So Tracy and I posted alternative financing programs and also disability rights in the States. We had some questions about translation, which were answered in the chat. Because, you know, there was some concern about whether they would be available in Spanish, and it looks like they will. So
yes, it will. And, you know, our goal is to make that accessible, right? To make our publications accessible. And also I'm just talking about our financial education publications, but honestly, if you go to our website, you will see all sorts of resources that are helpful. We have resources on how to make your home a smart home, and your smart homes made simple. We have a great resource guide. We also have a great resource guide on funding your assistive technology. So it includes all sorts of options, and that's actually what, like Tracy's wheelhouse. But again, we have plenty of resources on our website that would be helpful to you, not just financial education resources. And again, just to remind you, these guides are available to, you know, to anybody. There is not a cost, and the Sense and Sensibility, a money management guide, you can just either go online and request it via an inquiry form, or you can download it if you want to, but you also can get a paper copy of that as well. And then I'm going to ask everybody, make sure when at the end of this webinar, you complete the survey. And I want to thank you for having us. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you, Karen.
And I'll stop
This is
sharing.
Sure.
Okay.
That was a fantastic webinar. I really do appreciate you bringing this information, and we had a very active chat. So I don't think there was any part that the participants did not add on or ask questions. Also, a lot of thank yous. And for those who are mentioning they would like resources and information, these slides, as well as any additional handouts that are sent to us, will be posted on the RAISE website, and that information will be sent to anyone who registered for today's webinar. There will also be a recording in English that would include the ASL interpreter, and a recording in Spanish that would include our interpreter, Luis, who interpreted the webinar today in Espanol. Other than that, I don't see any other questions, but thank you. So we'll close out, and you can always contact us at theRaiseCenter.org. But have a good day, and thank you again to our interpreters and presenters, as well as the RAISE team for all your support. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.